So we're saying that if we understand this research and if we're serious about it, we need to draw our eyes to this research in order to drive learning and teaching in our school. We've also said this morning and conversed around the fact that this work needs to be named, not as extra, but as central to our strategic planning, to our school improvement efforts, to our annual action plans. And most importantly, although people will help us, it's not about a particular person or a particular space. And I'd also like to put out the challenge there that it's not about doing more. It might be actually stopping doing some things we're doing or tweaking some of the things we're doing. And sometimes, as I say in schools I work at, less can be more. We don't want staff to feel overwhelmed in this space. It's about shifting our gaze to where we think we can make the difference. And this is saying, as the very first slide this morning said, where are our parents at the moment? So how do we shift our gaze from saying everything that happens in the classroom will transform learning to know that we need to focus on family engagement with us in learning if we're going to make the difference. So let's just have a quick look. So if you think about the circle of learning, this is the critical wedge that needs to be driven by schools to make the difference. And the conversation we're going to engage in now is to take us further on that journey, where are you, 1 to 5, to say how are you going with your planning in this space. If I was to come out to your school and look at your annual action plans, look at your professional learning program, look at your leadership activities, look at the way you shift the culture of your school, where's this named? How's it being measured? How are families being consulted about it? In your packs and the discussions that you had from the first forum, this is where you were, beginning to look at what you're currently doing, how you are currently going, and you'll find copies of these in your packs. Moving on from that, beginning to have these conversations which you've had previously, looking at checklists to see how you're going in the space. And it's great to use checklists like this, and I'm sure you'll have chances to revisit what you're doing in this space. But ultimately, checklists need to get to the question, so what? How are we progressing the work? Where's it being named? How crucial is it to the work that we're leading in our schools? Or is it still something that's seen as extra additional activities? Is it still something that we put onto someone's role description, but the rest of us go on doing business in learning and teaching like we've always done? Or is it something that we believe can be transformative and it takes attention from leadership, it takes real consultation with families, it takes bravery to have new structures, new understandings for all of our staff, a new way of doing business. And then more particularly, what do we let go of in order that we can focus on this? Because we can't do more. What do we do differently? Tweaking things like the family conversations, making things together, tweaking the way we share what's happening in our learning and teaching with families in language that makes sense, inviting families to the table to talk about learning rather than telling them about their son or daughter. So as we move into our action planning phase this morning, it's a real focus on what are you hoping to achieve. If we were to come out to one of your schools in 1 year's time, 3 years' time, what will be different? Will it be a number of activities that are happening? Or will there be things in your action plans, in your annual operating plans, that are really showing that you're changing the way you're doing business? There are things in your professional learning program that are showing you're changing the way you're approaching learning and teaching. Is this put in a section of your annual action plan around family engagement, or is it embedded in learning and teaching? They're the conversation pieces, the opportunities we have in the next session. If this is what you want your focus to be, What are the particular outcomes you want from heading in this direction, from having this focus? So what are your real goals and priorities in this space? And what are the strategic actions that you're going to do over the next 12 months, over the next 18 months, over the next 3 years to get there? So there may be one direction and you might have a different foci for the next 3 years. But to get to each of those areas, to get to each of those goals or priorities, it'll take particular leadership actions to get there. And so today is an opportunity at your table to share about, so what will you do? And will it actually take some resources, either in people's time, maybe in some costing? And what will be the outcome of doing that? How will you know it's been implemented? So what are going to be the measures? We can't make assumptions around this. So what are your measures? It may be some of your school improvement data in the longer term, but what will be some of your indications of success along the way? How will you know that you're making a difference in this space? What will you use to get there in terms of those? Will it be surveys or groups or other particular measures? And whose responsibility will it be? You may say things like it'll be the whole staff, and that's great, but someone needs to lead the work to be a prompter. And someone said this earlier. It's a bit like saying literacy is important, but we don't have a literacy leader. It doesn't mean the literacy leader is responsible for it all, but the literacy leader keeps it alive in our planning, makes sure that it remains a focus. That's what we're saying about this work. If it's left and unnamed and not measured, if it's left without appropriate structures being put in place, it'll disappear. If it remains something that you're passionate about but you're not embedding it into your annual action plan, it won't continue. So this activity now is a chance for you to continue conversations, which I'm sure are already happening, but that you can take this directly back into your school context. So I want you to use the action template to invite conversation from your own participants from your own school, but also to share ideas. So thinking around the ways that you've been inspired or the way your own thinking has been stretched, holding all the other thoughts in mind, less is more. It doesn't mean we're trying to do more. How are we rethinking what we're doing around learning and teaching? Who'd like to add something to the conversation publicly? Don't all put up your hands at once, but let's see if we can have a couple. Good on you, Kevin. Thank you. Thanks, Kevin.
We all laugh, and I'm here from a primary school, but I just wanted to say a couple of things publicly about Parents Mattering, because it is about building our community's capacity. It is a cornerstone for a school, but a school exists to support. It's not my quote, I wish it was. It's what I've used for 30 years. But the purpose of a school is to assist families. It's an Edward quote. The purpose of a school is to assist families to educate their children and develop citizens. Clearly some schools need more support than others, and the paradigm or the mindset of the Minister about the triangle is not a bad idea. If you want to keep those points in proper tension, you have to understand that you have to invest, not as an add-on, but at the centre. So you have to have reciprocity. We were just talking at the table before about that. Do not assume is so important. People have heard me banging on about that for ages. Do not assume that you know, ask. It's called the DAL at our place. You know, we moved from a POPE, which was purpose, outcome, planning and evaluation. That was when I first arrived. But it is all about a hook and giving the staff a hook. One of the suggestions that our colleagues from Millen was saying, that how do you get the teachers, how do you get the people to talk to parents? Because 101 is the relationship. So the leadership has to create the time and space, has to create, release the people to do that in real time. And because it'll build the parent capacity. You ring them up like a coach, like with your teachers, you invest in 10 to make one withdrawal. Hey, this person knows what I'm doing, but I could do something better, so you make a withdrawal. The parents are exactly the same. We're talking about people at the special school, actually ringing parents up to say what's happening in learning and positive. So when you've got to make that phone call about their behaviour or the fact that they've got to change a life skill because it's impacting on others, you don't go into deficit. So that thing about making it, legitimately making your school Like the hub, it's not a space, it's a way of working. And it's not about moving from primary school to secondary school. And I'm wrapped that there's a legitimacy. There's an absolute legitimacy in us having a conversation about parents getting into secondary schools. And because it was, and it's not these people that are in these spaces now and in this room, but the paradigm was, I know from my own 3 kids when they went, in your pocket and at the gate. We always use the excuse that the kids don't want it. Well, it's not that you're in there holding their hand the whole time, taking them to the canteen, keeping them away from the kid that smokes, keeping them away from the wagger. It's participating in their learning. And so that's the message that I have. DNA. Do not assume that that's what the kids want. Because the kids do. My kids love the fact that I know about what they're doing. And no, they didn't want me, the last person in the world, with my 17-year-old daughter when she was in grade 6 and trying to fall out of love with this little lunatic, was for me to be at the school the whole time. But what she wanted to know is the struggle she was having with the economics teacher that really wasn't listening to her. So anyway, I'll take it 10 minutes because it's a bit of a monologue, but it's a passion of so many people in this room as well. And what we have to do is champion that. That it is legitimate, it is important to listen, and it is important not to assume that our parents, whatever culture, whatever poverty, whatever challenge, is that they don't want to. I haven't met one in 22 years I have not met one parent that didn't want the best for their kids. Some of them didn't have the skills, didn't have the access, but I've not met one parent that didn't want the best. Some of them have got appalling ways of responding to things, but I haven't met one parent that didn't want the best for their child because of what they've missed out on, or they've still got their dream for theirs. So that's my
Thanks,
take.
Kevin. Time for one more comment. Stretched, inspired.
Look, as part of attending today, a couple of things come to mind. I come from a community school, and we're very fortunate in the sense that the parents are quite involved in the life of the school. Whether it's through the school activities or the board, which is part of an association. But the question that it comes to my mind at the moment, we do have a lot of, and we discuss this with this group, we do have a lot of people involved or parents involved in our school life, but are they engaged? Are they aware of what is being taught in the classroom and so forth? So this is something probably we want to go back and take it to the school. And before we probably get to the stage of family engagement, we need to do a lot of work as a school or as teachers and staff, and bring this discussion into the meetings and talk about it, and try and move it to the stage where we are able to engage our parents and engage them effectively. So that probably will be a step or two for us ahead, but we need to start doing the basic work for it and the preparation.
Thank you. I think it's a really valuable comment. Thank you.
As we widen out our desire to involve the community, one of the things that's very critical is to bring all of the school community with us. One is to communicate it to the parents that that's what we want to do, and see what. And that's why the needs analysis that Denise is involved with at the moment is so critical, because we want to hear what the parents actually want, what involvements they do want, and making sure that your staff are also on board with it, because they're the ones who are going to, over time, going to be the absolutely critical ones to have that momentum roll on and the snowball effect, so you get the critical mass happen. And I think it's making sure that everybody's on a similar page at least.
Thanks, Gary. I think both the latter two comments are really crucial, because it is around consultation, but it's also around consultation with new understandings. And I think the understanding the difference between involvement doesn't equal engagement in learning, and it takes deliberate actions on the part of the school to get to that point. But that won't happen unless you've got strong relationships and you're consulting along the way. So I think those two comments really balanced each other. Any final comments? Kay in the background. Okay.
Just going on from that, I've been working with Mary, because I was fortunate last year to come to a forum, and Mary's worked with the school. From last year we've had a sit worked with the SIT team, worked with the whole staff, and 5 sessions I think we've had. And the thing that's been easiest for me is that I've sort of chunked it up a little bit. And so if you're talking about engaging families with learning, I think this term with Education Week and reporting and having conversations with parents, and I sort of call this term talking together, it's just a little bit of a thing, but it's been easy for me because I made first term about belonging and this one's about talking together, and it might be really, really simple things, but just a few things that we can actually do together. So I just think, you know, when people talk about you've got to get your teachers on board, that's really the crucial thing, that the whole school's not doing it, is doing it, and it's not just Kay or Kevin or whoever's thing because, you know, they like that stuff. Anyway, that's all I want to say.
Thanks, Kay.